What is up, Jamily? This is JamiroFan 2000 here with yet another episode of JamiroFan Talks About, where I look at the past, present, and future of Jamiroquai and everything related to Jamiroquai over the last 27 years. I thought I'd change the pace for this episode of JamiroFan Talks About and talk about something that I've noticed when it comes to music fans talking about music. Now, I'll give you a little bit of context. There's been a lot of music fans that I've talked to, at least here in the United States, have said one very key thing that I always found very interesting. Whenever they would hear a song or a melody of a song from specifically be old or new, and it sounds very similar to another artist's music, melody, or anything that resembles the original of that song, they would usually say the following line. They say that artist X stole that song or music from artist Y, and you can insert whatever band name you want in the artist X and artist Y. But I found it very interesting that continues to be used by a lot of music fans when it comes to the situation where they hear one song that sounds very much like another song. I'll do an example here, at least with Jamiroquai. Now, we all remember back in 2017 when Justin Timberlake released his album Man of the Woods. His lead single was a song called Filthy, which had the music video looked and sounded very much like the previous Jamiroquai title track from the 2017 album Automaton. Now, many members of the Jamily automatically were like, wow, JT has stolen the sound from Jamiroquai. And this whole conversational concept is a bit of a two-pronged discussion you can have. You have this side where it's about an artist stealing outright from another artist's either music or melody, or then you can just get the other prong of this conversation. You can start using the whole cultural appropriation discussion when it comes to a specific genre of music being done by another race of human or another race, and it being considered to be stolen from that other gender. But I'm going to concentrate on the first prong of this conversation, at least for this episode of JamiroFan Talks About. Now, back to Filthy and, of course, Automaton. I have always thought, as a music fan, that the fear fabric of music, at least in a genre sense, has always been innovated by previous artists. Now, and I did do a Jamiroquai Minute most recently pointing out a musical connections between modern Jamiroquai music and past music that influenced Jamiroquai in their own music-making process. And I think this is an ethereal part of music making that has been going on for decades and even centuries if you really want to go way, way back. But I'm always been against saying that one artist stole music from another artist unless there was a permission from the original artist, from the old artist, to use that melody or that musical inspiration in their own piece of music that will sound very similar to the source material. And I think a lot of music fans do usually say that, just not in a lazy sense, but just as a knee-jerk response to when they hear the situation of a song that sounds very similar to another song. And in this case, in the Jamily, or in that time, many music fans thought immediately that Justin Timberlake was stealing from Jamiroquai, where I did note that, but I didn't honestly think that. And I honestly think that all music is always the end result of a lot of evolution within whatever genre of music you gravitate to and listen to on a regular basis. All music is the byproduct of a lot of other artists' music. So I don't think completely that artists outright steal other artists' music or melody. I look at music usage as a inspirational sense, but I do agree that there should be some operation of asking a permission when a new artist uses any facet, any components of old music that is very popular to make their own music out of that original source material. But there have been examples in the past of just blatant blatant stealing of components of previous music when used in music that would inevitably end up becoming very, very popular. The greatest example of this was, of course, the case between Robin Thicke, Pharrell, and, of course, the estate of Marvin Gaye. Back in, I believe it was 2012, 2013, when Blurred Lines became a monster hit for Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams. The family of Marvin Gaye decided to take them to court, saying that they had not asked permission, but outright used the melody from a popular Marvin Gaye song, Can't Give It Up, Part 2, in the composition of Blurred Lines, and were asking for the lion's share of royalties that were accrued from the success of Blurred Lines by Pharrell and Robin Thicke. But that case ended. This case was very rare because it would turn into setting a precedent that not only parts of songs that are used in the sampling process, which is what they did, they sampled. And sample is another word you can use for, asking permission or using components of an old song into a new song. But in this case, Pharrell and Robin were kind of in the were in the wrong, because they didn't ask permission from the family of Marvin Gaye when sampling that famous song by Marvin Gaye during the composition of Blurred Lines, and they were very haphazard in the process of making Blurred Lines. And it came out of the court case that they were under influence, and they just made very, very, very bad decisions when making this song. So that's why ultimately the judge ended up ruling with the estate of Marvin Gaye, and they ended up settling at. But that's just an example of a worst case of artists using or sampling other artists' music without having the proper decorum of asking permission. But back to the original discussion. But I was just using that as an example, setting a contextual example of when it could be considered theft in the usage of old music into new music composition. But I still don't believe in theft of other artists' music. I've always looked at music as being an ever-running river of influence. There's always going to be old music influencing new music, so unless they are appropriate enough to ask permission of an old artist when using components of that music into their new music, and it catches fire and becomes very popular, they should at least you follow that logical music-making decorum. But I don't really like to say one artist stole another person's music or melody or anything, unless it's blatant. If it's blatant, then you can say that. But if it's clearly not blatant and it's just coincidental, then I don't use that line of that dialogal line when talking about music theft. So I just thought I'd do a JamiroFan Talks About to flesh that all out, because it's just something I've been hearing with a lot of regularity from my fellow music fans inside the Jamly and outside of the Jamly when it came to music discussion of when you hear one song that sounds like another song, So I thought I'd just flesh that out. But I'm very interested in your opinion about this topic. Do you believe music sampling or music usage from an old artist to a new artist should have the decorum of permission asked, or do you think it's just straight up theft when another artist uses old music or composition or melody in a new song and it catches fire, it gets really popular, but they forget to go and thank that previous musical artist, or don't give them royalty notation or anything? I'm very most interested in your opinion on this topic, so if you'd like to leave your feedback and your opinions about this topic, please feel free to leave it in the comment section of this video down below here on YouTube, or on the comment section when I post this on the Jamiroquai subreddit. I'm most interested in reading all of your feedback. And as always, this is JamiroFan 2000, and I'll see you again really soon with more Jamiroquai Minutes, more JamiroFan Talks About, and much more Jamiroquai related videos here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel. Bye bye, everybody.